This is Gen X Amplified episode number 10. And today we are going to deep dive into the power of content marketing, storytelling, and doing amazing things through social good. So, are you ready? Let's do it.
Especially for Gen Xers, we get to a point in our life where, we've done a lot of things and we realize, wait, there's more to this than just the corporate ladder. I want to work for a company that cares about their employees and embraces families.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Hey everybody, what is going on? This is another episode of Gen X Amplified and your host here, Adrian Porter. So today, if you want a deep lesson on everything content marketing, social media, storytelling, then you're definitely listening to the right episode. That's because my guest today is a prolific speaker, author, photographer, content storyteller, and consultant. Over the years, he has worked with many corporate clients, including Nike, American Eagle Outfitters, Coca-Cola, and actually one of my former employers, HBO. He is a best-selling author of 2 awesome books, Content Rules and Amazing Things Will Happen. And he also heads up a consultancy called Never Enough Days that specializes in social good, cause marketing, and corporate social responsibility. Everyone, please welcome my Gen Exceptional guest, CC Chapman. What is up, CC?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Likewise, man. You're so important that you have to see your first initial like not once, but twice, right? Is that
how it goes? Yeah, no.
No, I love it. I have to try that sometime, but I don't have the double. I go by AP, but CC sounds much cooler.
Oh, there you go.
I first came across you and your brand and your content through your book, Content Rules. I picked it up, I would say maybe a couple of years ago, right when I started to really get into this whole content marketing thing. And I tell you, I have it right here in my audience. Can you hear the pages? Like I'm holding the book up to the mic and it's all torn and highlighted, but no, seriously, CC, your book that you wrote along with the great Ann Handley, Content Rules, and I love subtitles, so I have to read this subtitle because it's so how to create killer blogs, podcasts, videos, ebooks, webinars that engage customers and ignite your business. And I tell you, if you want like the Bible for content marketing, you got to go check this out. So CC, again, it's my pleasure having you on, and I'm so excited, man.
No, I'm excited too. And you want to know, since you bring up the subtitle, I got to tell you a funny story that I haven't told in a long time, and it's relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
We literally the night before we're supposed to turn in the manuscript, all of a sudden we realized in the subtitle is the word podcast, and we did not write a single thing about podcasts in the book. Ann goes, Cece, you got to write this because I haven't done one before. I mean, this was 2009, and
right.
It was just like, you're the podcast man. You got to. So it's always funny because that subtitle made us go, oh, we got to add a chapter right now. So, kind of funny as we're sitting here on a podcast, but very, very true story. Moment of panic.
I know that is so funny. It's interesting you said it was 2009 when you wrote the book, and look at podcasting now. But speaking of podcasts, so this is a great transition. As I mentioned, I first saw you and read about you obviously through the book, and then I first heard you on a podcast on Chris Ducker's podcast some years back. Yeah, that was a great episode. I'm a big fan of Chris Ducker, but that's when I really started to get into your story. And so speaking of story and podcasting, which I believe you were probably one of the first in the podcasting phenomenon back before podcasting became the way it is now. Can you just briefly give our audience and take us back a little bit and kind of start with your journey?
Sure.
As an entrepreneur, we're all about storytelling here and the power of story. So I'd love for you to share your story and how it led you to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, so my story is one that is not linear. It's all over the place. It's all over the map.
Okay.
I went to college for. I have a degree from Bentley University in computer information systems. I went to college. Was told, Cece, don't major in marketing. It'll be too hard to get a job. So I went for computers. Computers were new. It's what I was into. And I graduated. Programmed for a number of years. Went into usability studies and those sort of things, and then started building and figuring out the web in the background because I had an independent film production company called Random Foo Pictures that I'd started in college when I was doing theater and whatnot. And so I was teaching myself HTML. I was figuring all these things out, building websites. And then all of a sudden, I was always kind of on the forefront of new technology, started blogging in 2002, recorded my first podcast in 2004. And suddenly I was working at another college and I transitioned into working in marketing, and I said, listen, this is a webmaster position, but I want to change it to be called digital marketing manager because the web's going to be so much more important than we're realizing. Let's make it something bigger. Did that for a while, and then just kind of get to the point where we all hit those walls in our careers where it's like, you know what, this isn't the right gig for me, and I need to find something different. And went home and called a couple friends, and the next thing I know, a friend of mine's launching an agency, and he says, hey, I want you to come join me. So my wife, I always tell the story about how my wife went to bed with me saying, yeah, I think tomorrow I got to start a job search, and woke up in the morning with me saying, hey, honey, I have a new job. And she was like, what? And we've got kids at this point and everything. So,
right.
She was a saint for backing me up on that. And yeah, so that was my first foray into real marketing and the agency world and those sort of relationships and whatnot. And then, ended up starting my own agency called The Advanced Guard with my business partner, Steve Colson. And then a couple years later, we were acquired by a bigger agency who has since been acquired by another big agency. That's the way agencies happen. The fish kind of, eat each other.
Right.
And it was right around that time when we had sold the company that, my 12 months came up, the golden handcuffs that keep you around, and Content Rules was coming out. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go out on my own and see what happens. And I haven't really looked back since then. And it's been interesting because a big part of my story is, while I've always loved marketing, and I understand it and I appreciate it and I want to do it right. And content, the content creating and being an artist and those things have always happened. 2012, I went to Ghana with the One campaign, and over there, I met entrepreneurs, I met university students, but then I also met doctors and mothers with AIDS and saw giving vaccines, what it was doing, and all these amazing things. And I left saying, my God, I want to use my powers for good. I want to do something more. And that's why I started Never Enough Days, to kind of focus my efforts to say, this is what I do. I focus on social good, or any brand that wants to do good in the world and do marketing for it, not just another Facebook campaign or something like that. And I still write, I teach. I taught my first college class this past spring, and I'm teaching another one this fall. I love being in a classroom. I think it's why I love speaking too. I do a lot of speaking, and I love motivating, inspiring, and teaching, and all those combined. And being a dad, I get challenged with that stuff every single day, having two teenagers. So,
oh wow.
I mean, that's a really quick story without lots of crazy little details, but that's how we got to where we are today.
That's pretty cool. And when you mentioned blogging, and you said 2002 you started blogging? Yep. And podcasting 2004. So let's kind of go back to the future a little bit, or back to the past, because if you think about blogging in 2002, were you doing Typepad, WordPress, or what platform were you using?
I don't even think those were. My first one was Blogger, just blogger.com,
okay.
and then moved to Movable Type soon after.
Right. Wow. And then podcasting 2004. So this is pre high-speed Wi-Fi. I don't even think I knew what a podcast was. I'm sure that the process of people listening to a podcast was so much different.
It was so hard. I mean,
right.
Podcasting. Dave Weiner created in the summer of 2004, and December 21st, 2004, I recorded my first podcast, and I only found out about it because I got my first iPod. I was late to the game, and I went out and searched the web. What can I do? Oh, it's this podcasting thing. Oh, I did college radio. Oh, I've got a microphone. Oh, this is easy. Let me hit record.
Wow.
And, a month later, I'd launch one of the largest independent music podcasts, and soon I'd be getting paid to podcast, and it was like, whoa, what just happened? So it's kind of funny when I see now all these studies and all this information about podcasting making being the next big thing. And I got to giggle. And I'm like, wow, I've been doing this for 10 years, almost 11 years now. Yeah, okay, it's the new thing. But it's great. I love seeing more people embracing audio. And it has gotten so much easier to listen because, we didn't have Bluetooth in the car to listen, and didn't have any of that stuff. And people kind of forget about it. So I love the fact that it's still around and it's doing so well.
So you said it was your first podcast was a music podcast. What was the name of it?
Well, my very first podcast was called Reality Bitch Slap Radio, and it was just it was me just kind of babbling into the microphone, and then I would always end with an independent music track. I had built up this sort of library of music that I had permission to play for my films I was doing, and I wanted to give them kind of thank you, so I started playing that, and then people started going, "Hey, Cece, you got some really cool music. You ever thought about doing a music podcast?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I started this podcast called Accident Hash, and it was crazy. It was picked up by this company Pod Show that grew into Mevio and then ended up going away after many years. I mean, it was a crazy. My podcast was on Sirius Radio for a while.
Wow.
So it's just it's nuts to look back and think about all this and see all these people now that don't realize podcasting has a history. So it's fun.
Wow. No, so you were definitely the early adopter of this whole content creation thing, and really, I mean, podcasting in 2004, 2002. You said you were speaking. Now that moment when you decided to do your own thing. Yeah. And you said you had the support of your wife, which is always great. And sometimes it can be challenging for entrepreneurs, especially when they are married. But when you had that transformational moment, like, how did you feel at that point when you finally said, you know what, I have a mission, I have an idea, I really want to put it to use and do my own thing? Like, how did you feel? Were you scared? Were you anticipating it? Were you nervous or just thrilled?
I mean, I was petrified. I think I'd be lying if I said otherwise. I mean, I was absolutely petrified. I had gone from a situation where me and my business partner had started this agency, and it was just us. I mean, we eventually had one full-time employee besides us. So it was small. And when you go from being your own boss to suddenly not being your own boss, that's bad. So all of a sudden saying, I'm going to go do my own thing, was exhilarating because I was like, oh my God, this is exciting. I don't know what's coming tomorrow. But on the same time, that's scary because I have things like a mortgage and kids and, those sort of things. So it was definitely scary. But, and you talk about, I mean, it is so crucial to have the support of your partner or your significant other, because you know what, if your house isn't in order, if your home isn't in order, it's going to make it really hard to concentrate on being successful at business. And I mean, I've said this on stage a million times. I could not do what I do without my wife. She's just, we've been together forever since high school. And, she has that stability that kind of counterweights my not stability. And, but it is an exciting thing. I mean, that moment you kind of burn the ships and go, you know what, I'm going to set off. And what I always told myself was, worst case scenario, if I completely bomb, if I fail and crash, I can go find another job. I can go, find an agency gig. I mean, I live outside of Boston. There's lots of agencies in Boston. Or I could go work at Starbucks. I mean, I could find a job to pay the bills if everything went to hell. And thankfully it didn't. But that's what I always told myself in the back of my head, is that, you know what, it could fail, but I could always find something to take care of things. That
is so true. When you said that, you had the support of your spouse, you talk about this in speeches. Now, to solidify that support, was it a matter of just really over communicating? How did you provide that reassurance? Or maybe sometimes it was a little scary. I mean,
I asked her point blank. I mean, vividly. I didn't know. I mean, we sat down. One of the key things to any relationship, whether it's business or, a love life, I mean, I think you have to be honest and you have to be very open and have really good, true conversations. And I sat her down and said, here's what I'm thinking. And, and I always remember she looked me in the eye and said, listen, you haven't let me down yet. Don't start now. I always remember that because I looked at her and I gave her a big hug and said, love you. No pressure. And we both laughed about it and everything because she knows that at the end of the day, my family is the most important thing. And I don't need riches. I don't need fame. I need a happy family that I bring my kids up properly. And anything that endangers that worries me. And she knows that. And we do talk about it quite a bit. We talk about things quite a bit because any entrepreneur out there, unless they strike gold and get really lucky, there's up and downs. There's moments of fear. There's days where you're like, I can't do this anymore. What am I doing? And to have that open communications, because the times when perhaps we didn't talk as much as we should have never been good times. And thankfully, thankfully those are extremely rare.
No, it is. And I mean, being a married entrepreneur, and for me, I'm similar to you, had a really good education, went to B school, worked for some pretty cool companies. I've been very blessed to work with some smart people, but mine was I got laid off and it was kind of forced into it. And I've always in the back of my mind wanted to do my own thing. And I figured out a way to take, my expertise, my experience and passion and to translate to do something that I want to do. But like you, man, if, worst case scenario, like I have 2 kids, I have a 6-year-old son, and by the time this airs, or at the time of this recording, I have a 2.5-week-old daughter.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, my daughter Kaylin was born a little over 2 weeks ago. So you talk about petrified moments.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm at the other end. My son, petrified moments. My son gets his license this weekend. And my daughter starts high school in a few weeks. So I'm at the other end of the petrified spectrum. Because I've got college on the horizon. And I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah.
What? So that's a whole other ball of entrepreneurs scared. I mean, it's crazy.
You'll be fine because you're a creator of some great content. Speaking of content, I want to talk about this book. I want to talk about both of your books and then really get into your current projects with the consultancy, which I think is great. Never Enough Days, and just get some insights on content. So content marketing, and it's a term that, it's almost ad nauseum that we hear all the time. And it's interesting when I talk to people like you that have been on the forefront of creating content to not just sell, which is pretty much content marketing. Sometimes I hear kind of dissenting opinions of the term itself. I'm curious to hear from you, like what side of that argument do you fall on?
Well, it's funny because when Ann originally asked me to write the book, I said, who the hell needs a book on content? Literally, that's what I said. I'm like, who needs instructions? Come on.
Right.
Biggest business decision. If I had done that, I'd been an idiot. I think one of the I say this all the time is that content marketing is nothing new.
Right.
From the moment, cavemen and women were painting on walls, they were telling stories and advertising, print, radio, and television, all of that. Everything has been content. It's just the tools are so much easier now. Every one of us carries around a production studio in our pocket with our phones. And also, there's the gatekeepers have been removed. Anybody can publish any content they want on a moment's notice. Right. And will anybody see it or not? That's a different thing. So I don't have a problem with it. I do think it's been kind of as with anything new that gets buzzworthy, everybody thought it was the next, great hope that was going to save marketing and advertising. And when done right, it can, but still at its basics, you can't just make a video and assume that people are going to watch it and be turned on by it. Every piece of content that you create, you got to think about it. It has to be part of a bigger strategy. It's all this. And, it happened when YouTube first launched. It happened when Twitter first launched. Take any tool or technology. When radio first launched, when television first launched, everybody jumped on the bandwagon. But then certain people figured out how to do it right. So I have no problem with the term content marketing. Right. But I also think all marketing, especially nowadays and for every day going forward, is going to be all about content because we are a mobile, interconnected internet world forever from now on. And it's not like even a few years ago, 2004, you could say not everybody has a smartphone. Not everybody's connected to the internet. And yes, there are still massive amounts of people in this world who are not, but every single day those numbers are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
Oh, right. No, they are. And you hit it on the head when you talked about the blogs are important, social media, but you really need a strategy for it. And I think when I picked up the book, there were other books on the marketplace in bookstores that talked about blogging or best practices for videos. I mean, at the time, this is what, 2012 or 11.
Right.
I think I picked it up in 2012. So YouTube was really gaining traction. I saw books on ebooks, but this was the first book that I encountered that really put all of those touch points in a cohesive and integrated like blueprint. And so that to me was the value proposition of the book. And it really hit on, all the different types of storytelling that you can really take advantage of. And more importantly, talked about the strategy. I mean, you guys got into like defining, not just talking about the tools, but talking about defining who you are as a brand, as a person. What's your story? When you write the book, it comes out. Did that catapult your personal brand to a whole nother stratosphere, or did it enhance it a little? Like, what was that moment like?
Well, it was interesting, and thank you for saying what you said about the book, because it's one of the things Ann and I really wanted to focus on. Was we didn't want it to be a technology book that went out of date as soon as it hit shelves.
Right.
And I vividly remember, that's why the only knock we get on the book sometimes is there's not a lot of how-to, because we didn't want to go out of date. And I so proud when we had to do the paperback edition, the only technology reference we had to take out was we had Google Wave in there, which is like and then we also had nothing in the book about anything about social photography, mobile, because Instagram didn't exist yet. So that was the one part we had to add. But so, which is fascinating, which we really worked hard to make sure, like we're talking now about doing a possible whole second edition, and we're like, well, what are we going to add? But you talk about, what you talk about, for me, the book was interesting because here it did certainly bring me to the attention of a whole bunch of new people. It was funny because Ann had her community, I had my community, and there was some overlap, but there was a whole bunch of who's this person on the other side, and it was fascinating. So it definitely certainly helped me get to another level. And if I'd been a smart business person, if I had, part of me, I should have like launched like the content rules, compendium, and I should have been writing about. I should have been writing about content marketing nonstop, and I probably would be at a much higher level than I am now.
Right.
A lot more. But what's funny? It wasn't what I wanted to create, and it wasn't what was compelling to me. And I had a feeling other people, like, if you want to read people, like Jay Baer instantly comes to mind, who writes some of the best topics about content. Or Jason Miller.
Love Jay Baer.
Jay's awesome.
Right.
And all of these people stepped up to do that. So it did bring me to a new level. It exposed me to all sorts of new audiences. And now it's fun too, because the book's coming out. I mean, it's out now. I think it's been translated in like 14 different languages. So it's kind of crazy to suddenly get a question from another country and those sort of things. It's and when you realize the fact that, for me, it was a huge honor, because I always wanted a book, to publish a book. And now, a lot of my friends have books out, but it's still pretty cool. The fact that I can walk into a library and find my book, or walk into, it's mind boggling, and that's always going to be there. And I love that.
Now, let me ask you this, because I'm actually in the process of starting to write my book, but I have to ask you, I hear that writing a book is probably one of the most rewarding experiences, but it can be one of the most painful processes. Is that true?
It's horrible. It's because it's so lonely, because it's so daunting. It's just you and the keyboard. And even when you have a co-writer, I mean, Ann and I could support each other, and it was great because, like, I'd see she'd write like 1,000 words. I'm like, I'm slacking off. I got to do my 1,000 words. But it's a very lonely process. It takes you away from your family. It's just, and there's moments of self-doubt. It is very, very hard. But man, I tell you, the minute you hold it in your hands, it makes it all worthwhile. But yeah, it's a very lonely process, and it's why books have acknowledgement sections, because there are people, I thank my wife for letting me do this, because there was days where she wouldn't see me. But yeah, so do it, and good luck on it, because it is worth it. It's totally worth it.
No, I appreciate that. And again, to my audience listening, Gen Xers, millennials, or boomers, even if you're listening, to everyone, this is a great book. It's still relevant. I tell you, you'll find a lot of social media content, digital marketing books that sometimes have a limited shelf life, because there are many Google Plus books that are out there.
Exactly.
I'm actually looking at my shelf right now, and I see a couple, but we won't talk about that even further. But again, this book, the title alone, it doesn't even say Facebook, Google Plus, Tumblr. It's more about the the platform, the storytelling platforms, and it's still relevant. So I advise everybody to pick it up. So let's get into your next book. So after you write Content Rules, you decided to write Amazing Things Will these great titles, man. Amazing Things Will Happen. Now that was what, 2014 when it was published?
That came out in 2012.
2012. Okay, 2012. Okay, 2012. So talk about the inspiration for that book.
Sure. Yeah. So I was actually sort of planning that book when Ann came to me with Content Rules, which is one of the reasons why I said, nah, I'm not in the mood to write this book. And she sweet talked me and all that whole other story. But Amazing Things Will Happen was I wanted to write a book where I've been very blessed, where I've had some amazing mentors over the years. I've worked with some really great people, and I wanted to kind of write a book that kind of gave my kids permission to do what they wanted with their lives. Sort of I use the word guidebook on purpose, because it's not like, here's the recipe for success, because those don't exist. But I really wanted to write something that my kids could read, process, and kind of have the permission to do what they wanted with their lives. And it was really crazy. And you want to talk about a book that was hard to write, because that one had lots of self-doubt. I'm like, at that point, I don't know. I was, late 30s-year-old guy going, who am I to tell people how to live their life? I still got a lot of, that's what you want the 80-year-old white-haired old guy with a beard to write. And it was really challenging, but man, I'm so proud. I mean, I'm proud of both my books, but that one I'm extra proud of, because it was the first one too where, my dad, my parents, they didn't read Content Rules, and I didn't blame them. But the fact that my dad buys Amazing Things and gives it to people all the time, he's like, hey, you got to sign another stack of books for me. That right there made every long night worth it.
Wow. No, it is. And the premise of the book in itself, I mean, it's definitely a different shift from Content Rules, which both books have their own values. And this one is really, like you said, about achieving happiness and success. And it was great.
Yeah. And for all the entrepreneurs listening, yeah, because that's exactly what you want to do. You write a best-selling book on content marketing, and then you follow it up with a self-help book. That makes lots of sense. But again, that's what I mean. It's what felt right to me. It's what, it wasn't, if I was solely driven by money in the business initiative, I would have not, that's a dumb move from a pure business standpoint, but it's what was right to me.
Right.
So yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think it's awesome. And it's a great transition into your consultancy. So Never Enough Days. So now, did you start this post Amazing Things or around the same time? Okay.
Yeah, but it was one of those honestly, what it was it came to the fact that I've been doing freelance forever. And sometimes a reality of the business world is sometimes companies don't want to do business with CC Chapman or individual X. They want to do it with company Y. So I had to create something in an LLC that I could base my work around. I had this idea of Never Enough Days. I had the URL for a while. I actually thought I was going to do a travel blog with it, because the genesis of it was that I knew that there was never enough days to do everything I wanted to in the world. And I couldn't check it. Wait, that's kind of cool. Maybe that's what I'll call my consultancy. The fact that, we talk about, when you want to change the world, there's never enough days.
Right.
And so, it's a little marketing, but it's what I believe too.
Now I have to quickly ask you. So when you had the epiphany of the title, did you how fast did you run to GoDaddy or Network Solutions to get the
immediately. I buy domains like they're candy.
Man, it's an addiction. It's crazy because, and I get these promo codes. I mean, I have to try to take advantage, but I'm in the shower or whatever. I have an idea. I literally would stop the shower, run, get my laptop, go to GoDaddy and pray that it's available.
Yeah, when it's free. And then when it's free, how do you not buy it?
Right.
But I've gotten really good, because I had a bit of a habit, I think. And I've gotten really good to the point now where when it comes up for renewal, I'll look at it and go, am I really going to get to that ever? Because sometimes it's book titles, sometimes, and it's also like I used to also buy when it was something I really wanted, I'd buy like the .org and the .net. And nowadays, I really think that's stupid unless you're protecting a brand. You don't really need all those. So I let those all expire and I'll hold on to the .com or whatever sometimes. But yeah, it's an impulse thing, because when you look at it, it's like, wait, for $20 or whatever, depending up or down, it's like, is this idea worth that money?
Right.
Yeah, it is. For now it is. But the renew process is when you go, do I really want it?
I know. Well, for me, it depended upon the idea. Sometimes I just do 1 year subscriptions and face that, after in 12 months instead of doing the multi-year. But no, it can be addictive. But hey, for entrepreneurs, if you have an idea, there's power. Get that URL. Yes. Get it quick. All right. So Never Enough Days, consultancy focused on corporate responsibility, cause marketing, and which I commend you for that. I think there isn't enough conversations about that part of marketing. And I think especially in today's time, it's very important and relevant. So,
and it's tough. I mean, it's tough because businesses, while people are starting to come around to this, businesses are starting to realize that they do have to be about more than just the bottom line. And there's this concept of the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit.
Right.
And and that's, people are starting to come around to it, but it's one of those things. It's a story of my entrepreneur career where I'm sort of ahead of the curve. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of companies and individuals doing this stuff now for sure, but it's not like content marketing now where everybody's doing it. It's cause and good cause marketing, not just, hey, for every like, we'll donate $1. I want to do better than that. And in a perfect world, I would do nothing but work with NGOs and nonprofits and help them do their marketing better. And that's where I focus a lot of my time. Not necessarily, and as I always say, it's great for my soul, not great for my wallet. But you know what? I'm okay with that.
No, I think it's important. I mean, one of the brands that I'm addicted to, not just because of the product, but Starbucks. I'm a big Starbucks fan, and they sometimes get a lot of flack for some of their cause marketing initiatives. But I think when you think about the next generation, and even though this is Gen X Amplified, but again, and I've said this before, to really build and amplify, Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs, you have to think about leading the next generations. And we are now, as Gen Xers, we are either managing the millennials or we're raising Gen Zs who are the next generation that these corporations are focusing on. But I tell you, the millennials, they're really into, social good.
I think a lot of it is the fact that, they've been raised up in this world where they see causes all the time, and they're watching, their favorite act on YouTube, and they're talking about their causes. And it's not like, it wasn't when we were growing up, all we had was the Jerry Lewis telethon. That was our yearly exposure to giving.
It. Yeah,
right.
That was it.
Now every day there's some new cause or commercial, and I think I look at my kids and they're 16 and 14, and how much more they're exposed to giving, and the fact that I lead by example, and they see me. Why'd you buy that product over that product? And we talk about it. I think it's just much more common. But like you said, it's not just the millennials. The millennials are just more exposed to it. But I also think, especially for Gen Xers, we get to a point in our life where a lot of us are at our point in our career where we've done a lot of things, and we realize, wait, there's more to this than just the corporate ladder. I want to work for a company that cares about their employees and embraces families, or isn't polluting the world. I think every age is going to care more and more about that, and it's certainly not going to ever change going forward because every generation is going to care about it more. Yeah,
you literally just read my mind. I think it's a great transition what you just said, because I really want to get into kind of that conversation among Gen Xers, or to that Gen Xer that's listening right now. And part of the main mission for this platform is to really help empower people that are 35 to 50-year-olds who are either working for corporate America, but they're frustrated. They're feeling either they're not moving up enough, or they're at the point of their career where the millennials are starting to come in the workforce, which isn't a bad thing. But you think about people in our generation, we've built up all this expertise, all this experience. And with what you said even earlier in the show, the gatekeepers are gone. So when our parents and our grandparents were trying to build businesses at 35 or 50, they had to, go a different route. Well, let's talk about Gen Xers living in this new media marketplace, CC, and the opportunities that 43-year-old has if they want to leave their job or start a side business or just build their own business, raise a family, raise their Gen Zs, married, but not sure how to tackle these content platforms that you so eloquently wrote about and you talk about all the time in your speeches?
I think we have to start first. I mean, the advice I always give is, first you got to make sure everything is okay on the home front. Make sure, don't just suddenly go, I quit, and and not have stuff taken care of. I mean,
right.
You talked about getting laid off. Sometimes that is having been laid off before, I understand you don't realize it at the time, but sometimes that is the perfect nudge you need because you've been like, and then you got no other choice.
Right.
Which, by the way, to everybody listening and to you, if you haven't seen it, there's an amazing short film called Lemonade, which is made by Eric Prue, and it's all about people who got laid off and then found their true calling. Great. It's like a 17-minute video. Fascinating. Go find it. I'll send you a link after we get off the to it. But
yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for everybody too.
Great stuff. But I think you have to figure out to make sure things are taken care of. Make sure that you're not going to suddenly miss mortgage payments or unfeed your kids. Once you got that stuff taken care of, there's nothing wrong with starting it on the side. Skip an hour of a television if it's that important to you. Skip all the television. It might be really good for you. But
don't watch that Game of Thrones marathon on.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, it is over cliche, but everybody has 24 hours a day.
Right.
You choose what priorities are for you. There's nothing wrong with starting something on the side as a passion project or as a something on the side that you do at night. Start there and see if it is really something that you want to do. I love taking pictures and photographs, but I would never want to be a professional photographer because it's always been just a passion project. And I'm good at it and I get hired to do it sometimes, but I don't want to make it my livelihood. And you may not want this side project to be your livelihood either. But I think what's really amazing about it is there are books, there's courses that you can find the information how to do anything in the world with a couple Google searches. And it doesn't matter if it's, my kids, they go out to YouTube and find out how to build or create anything, and you can too. And I guarantee you the answers are out there for whatever you want to do. And just, if you don't know how to set up a store, it's so easy to set up e-commerce these days. Or if you want to, it's just, there's very little boundaries to starting your side business. And I think it's just a matter of getting educated and inspired and realizing that every single entrepreneur out there, every single one of them has the same fears and worries and lack of knowledge when they start out that you have at this moment. The difference is the successful ones embrace it and say, okay, I'm scared, and it's okay that I'm scared, but I'm going to take that next step forward. And don't think it's going to happen overnight. Don't, all these stupid Silicon Valley quote unquote success stories about billions of dollars overnight. Those are the extreme rare happenings. Do not think that if it takes you a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get to the point where you're happy, that's normal. Most things don't happen overnight. Those overnight successes you hear about, there's probably 10, 12 years before that where they weren't and they were struggling to get there, and you're going to fail, and you're going to maybe not fail, but you're going to fall down and make mistakes. We all do. Just take your time and learn, I guess,
Oh, yeah. Noah, what's your thought on email marketing for our audience? Because
email's critical.
Yes. Yeah.
It's what I'll say to everyone listening right now. I've said this on stage before, where it's like, okay, how many social networks did you check today? Maybe you checked them all, but I guarantee, okay, how many times have you checked your email today? We all check email. So email newsletters, while they're not necessarily sexy and they're not necessarily as flashy and get all the attention, email newsletters are fantastic, because the other thing is everybody you're sending an email to has opted in for that. At least they better if you're doing it right.
Right.
They've opted in. Those people want to hear from you. So they're saying, hey, you've got my attention, now keep it. And it's up to you to keep their attention and not lose it. So I think email is critical, especially from a content marketing standpoint, whether you're creating original content for your newsletter or just repurposing stuff you've already created.
Yeah, repurposing, that's pretty important too. I think what a lot of people miss, and I've come across this in people that I consult or just have conversations, is that you can have, if you create that great piece of content, you can chop that baby up so many ways. Yeah. It's, your book outlines it. You just mentioned photography. While you don't want to be a professional photographer, you're known for, having that passion for photography, but, whether it's a video, a still photo, you can put that baby on SlideShare,
Oh, yeah.
put text and audio. We're on a podcast right now. And that's what's so amazing, man. And I think about, our generation again, and this is like a burning passion for me, is that, times are so different than they were 20 years ago. I mean, we're sitting here right now. You are literally in your home on a microphone. I am too. My babies sleep upstairs. You've written books. I'm trying to get to where you are eventually. But at the end of the day, we're doing things that we love. We're creating content. We're building businesses. And I do this. So my daughter, who was just born 2.5 weeks ago, her children's children will be watching or listening to this.
How crazy is that when you really think about it?
That's
Isn't
crazy.
It nuts?
It's literally crazy. Everything that we're doing right now, people like your great grandchildren will be talking about amazing things will happen and never enough days, and it's crazy. So with that in mind, especially as Gen Xers, every decision that we're making, it has so much impact, can have so much impact. And, I just encourage everyone to really think about that, especially listeners, that the tools are here now. So you mentioned that earlier. Right now we're walking around with studios in our pocket with Wi-Fi. So it's a crazy thing.
It is, and it gets cooler and more. The new stuff every single day, every single day.
Oh yes. Well, speaking of new stuff every day, and then we're wrapping up, and there are two other questions I want to get to because I think this is going to be fun. But thinking of things every day. So you're a photographer. I'm sure. Are you a fan of Instagram?
Oh yeah, big time.
It's the engagement is crazy, right? But what's your thought on filtered photography, quick and dirty, versus like the art of photography? Because I hear arguments on both sides. I'm curious to hear your thought on that.
I think so. All right, so there's snapshots and there's photographs.
Yeah.
Snapshots, no rules. My grandmother used to bring a Polaroid camera to every party, take snapshots. That's awesome. Love snapshots.
Right.
Photography, I think people, the purists who are like, if you filter, no. If a picture creates an emotional response from someone, and that includes yourself, then it's a photograph. If it's putting filters on, that's fine, whatever. I mean, it's funny because I know at first with Instagram, I literally looked at it, I'm like, it's all about the filters. Get out of here. But then I started using it and realized, no, it's not about the filters.
Right.
And true photographers can take a picture with anything. It doesn't matter the tool. You can get, and I have prints. I have framed canvas prints hanging on my wall that I took with a phone, and I have some that I took with a camera, and I guarantee you someone who comes to my house can't tell the difference. They either like the photograph or they don't. So I just think, don't get hung up in semantics. I mean, Instagram is such an amazing platform, and from a marketing standpoint, it's going to change drastically. I mean, they just announced yesterday that they're going to be opening up the ad platform on it pretty soon. So that's going to change. And again, you're going to see all these brands rush in and do stupid things that are going to make people go, I don't want to follow that brand ever again. But there's going to be some smart, savvy ones who are going to do it really, really well, because imagery, we are humans. We get turned on by imagery.
Right.
And we're going to, there's nothing more powerful than a beautiful photograph. And I love Instagram. I love the fact that I can take a picture anywhere in the world, and now with the technology too. I mean, my camera can send photos right to my phone, and then I can post them on Instagram. I love doing that. Love being able to do that.
As you're sitting here talking, my mind just went back a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was on that podcast with Ducker or someone else that I first heard about like best practices for taking a photo with Instagram, like holding down your thumb. Was that you? Was that?
It might have been. But Apple broke that. Yeah, it used to be.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, before, because now when you push the shutter button, it just keeps shooting pictures.
Oh, you know rapidly. What? You're right. Yeah,
but it used to be. Yeah, the iPhone used to be. That used to be my tip because no one would know it. When you let off the shutters when it actually took the picture, so I used to tell people to hold on to it.
That's right.
But not anymore.
Yeah, I hate. What do they call that? When you look in your photo library, when you hold it down, I have like 100 bursts.
Yeah,
I can't stand that. Yeah, but no, I did remember that before I upgraded. I tried your method, and it worked out. The focus was better. So we could talk about platforms all day, man, but we have to wrap up. I think this is great. I mean, you really dropped some great information, especially when it comes to the importance of content. I quickly have to ask though. So what would you say is the biggest platform, if you have to put your money on a platform right now that entrepreneurs should really think about starting with, what would it be? Or does it depend upon the strategy? I don't know what you're saying.
What my answer, because I get to ask all the time, I always tell them to start with a blog.
Okay.
Because, and my justification for that is because by setting up a blog on your website, you can publish any type of content to it.
Got it.
Rather than focusing on a platform. But that's where I always tell people to focus. But I think, Instagram's really interesting, and I can't wait to see how they integrate that with when Facebook starts integrating it more. And lately I've been playing a lot. I think the Meerkat and Periscopes of the world, the live streaming.
I'm addicted to I tell you, it's
I think it's really interesting because it's the real-time nature of it, and then being able to archive it. I think it's a really interesting, because live streaming's been around forever,
right,
but they just made it so simple with 2 clicks and suddenly you're streaming from your phone. I think that's going to be, really interesting to watch and see how it evolves.
Well, I will listen to you. I mean, from the man who podcasted in 2004, you have a pulse on what's going to work and what doesn't. But yeah, Periscope, Meerkat, there's that real-time, authentic element to it, especially for personal. If you're building a personal brand, there's something there. It's a little, it pulls back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's wrap up. Here's 2 questions that I ask all of my guests at the end of the show. First, CC, if there was a song that would play every time you enter a room or when you walk down the street that fits your story and the brand of CC Chapman, what song would that be? Basically, what would be your own personal theme song?
You have no idea how stressful this question is, because you don't understand. I love music. My music collection is ridiculous. It's diverse.
Me too.
So part of me, I'm like, okay, it's Prince's "Let's Go Crazy," or
no.
Maybe it's Rage Against the Machine's "Know Your Enemy," or and it's all. I'm like, So I was like, damn you. But then here's what I'll go with, because it's one of these songs that I always said, if I ever get a chance to walk out on stage to, I will. Okay. And I did get to, which is cool. Yeah. It's by this band called One Eskimo, which is this tiny little indie band, but they have this song called Amazing. And yes, it's cliche, but when I first heard it, I literally heard it and I went, oh my God, that's my song. So I'm going to go with One Eskimo, Amazing.
One Eskimo, Amazing. I love it. And then if there was one tool or that we haven't talked about, or maybe we talked about it, or resource that you, CC, would recommend specifically to a Gen X leader or an entrepreneur that's looking to build their brand, personal development, market their business, a mobile app, website, book, or what have you, what would that be?
So I thought about this one too. I think talking about building their business and building their skills, I would tell them to go out to lynda.com. Okay. Full disclosure, I teach for them. I'm one of the teachers there. I do teach some content marketing courses. Yeah. But they were recently bought by LinkedIn. So it's going to be, Lynda's just, they only work with really professional teachers, but they have courses now on not only every software and platform imaginable, but they've been really starting creating new content as far as everything from time management to productivity to true business stuff, HR classes now. So I think it's one of those places where for a little bit of money, and I forget how much, it's like $30 or $25 a month, all you can eat, basically. I think that's such a great resource that not enough people either go, oh, Lynda, I love them, or what's that? I think if you want to learn new skills, I can't recommend it highly enough. And there's other places like Creative Live is good as well. Yeah. And I've done some teaching for them. But I mean, when it comes down to, you can't go wrong with lynda.com. And it's LYNDA for anybody checking it out. Yeah,
Lynda, it's great. I mean, like you said earlier, you can learn anything right now with a click of a button. And it's totally, online education has just totally changed and transformed the whole educational system.
Just think what college is going to look like by the time your kids get there.
I was thinking about visiting my daughter on the moon one day, but it's going to.
You never know, right?
You never know. CC, it's been a blast, man. This has been an amazing, pun intended conversation. Tell everybody the best way they can find out more about you and how they can connect with you.
Sure. So the easiest place to find me is cc-chapman.com.
Okay.
And then if you want to follow me anywhere else online, including Instagram and Twitter, it's cc_Chapman.
Cool. So everybody follow him. Definitely on Instagram. Get that emotional response, filtered or not. Thank you so much, CC, for taking the time to share your story with the Gen X Amplified community.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care, man.
You too, man.
Okay, that was the one and only CC Chapman. CC, I like that. I want to thank CC for spending time with us on this episode of Gen X Amplified. A great guy, consultant, speaker, prolific author, Content Rules, and Amazing Things Will Happen. Two very awesome books that I encourage you all to pick up and definitely read. And also, please definitely follow CC on Twitter and check out his personal website. And we will have all of those links in the show notes over at genxamplified.com/010. Wow, 10. That's right. We have made it to episode number 10, which is pretty exciting. You know, but what's more exciting though is that we have many, many more episodes to go, because this train isn't stopping and we're just getting started. And that's all because of you that are listening in and supporting this podcast. Remember, the mission for this show is to provide you with valuable content to help you maximize your impact and take your business and life to the next level. So if you did enjoy the content, please support the show by giving us a rating and review in iTunes so we can share more of these great conversations and insights to a broader audience and change more lives. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Adrian Porter, and definitely go over to my personal website at adrianporter.com, where I provide more content, and I actually have some very special things coming up on the blog. So stay tuned very soon. Again, thanks to CC Chapman for a fascinating conversation, and I hope you all have a great week. And thank you for listening, for sharing, and more importantly, for just being the exceptional person that you are. So until next time, as always, all the best to your success. Take care.